You have a take on this Coldplay kiss cam.
What's funny is, in academic language, they often use this like sterile language. So they would say that Byron, the CEO, he had an extra dyadic relationship, meaning outside of his marriage. Well, but they both did, right? Because Cabot was married as well. So I think people forget that she had a husband, and then this guy Byron, he had a wife, and then they were with each other. But I wrote this piece basically highlighting that if you look at the research on what evolutionary psychologists would call it mate poaching, this idea of pursuing someone who is currently in a romantic relationship, it's surprisingly prevalent. Something like 60% of men will admit that they have tried to poach someone else's romantic partner. 53% of women also will acknowledge they've attempted this. And the higher up you go in terms of socioeconomic status, the more likely people are to attempt to poach someone's mate. So basically, richer people are more likely to try to steal someone's partner, and the more successful they tend to be at it, which is probably why they tried in the first place, right? Like, you're not going to try something unless you think you have some good odds of succeeding. And it's interesting because both of these people are well off. So Byron, he's the CEO. Cabot, the woman, she comes from a wealthy family. And, they both found each other. And, a lot of attention was paid to the response, the online mobs, the social media outrage, that reaction. I was interested in the reaction of Byron and Cabot, where as soon as the Coldplay guy said, he said something like, hey, take a look at these two. And then they immediately hunched their shoulders, covered their face, like this dramatic, they weren't trying to protect their relationship with each other, right? They were trying to protect their social image. They were trying to protect reputation. They didn't want to damage their social standing. And, I point out here that, in some ways, the higher up you go, the more your reputation matters. And so, if Byron and Cabot, if these two, I don't know, they had some lower level job, some job where they weren't public facing, where they didn't have a high profile, they probably wouldn't have reacted the same way. And then even if they did, would anyone have cared? Probably not. So, I just find this interesting that the higher you go, the more likely you are in your relationships to misbehave. But then the higher up you go, the more reputational risk there is as well.
How do you think about, what is it, just or unjust for them to both get canned as a result? How should we think about the fairness of this situation? Isn't it just a personal matter?
Yeah. I mean, I get that. I found it fascinating that even in our increasingly permissive times, that was something that seemed to unite everyone. For a brief moment, everyone was on board and the opinions were the same, that what they did was wrong. And, we all agree that this is something that it's okay to issue a little bit of shame. And yeah, was it right though? I mean, I can see the arguments going either way. I don't know the kind of, astronomer, the company, I don't know if they have certain moral standards or principles that they stand by or what have you. But it probably does affect, relationships with, I don't know, their board, the investors, their clients, whoever they're involved with, to know that, your CEO is a philanderer sleeping with the head of HR. It's just not a good look. For him, from his perspective. And then from her perspective, you can't really be the head of HR and be sleeping with the CEO, because part of your role is to, mitigate liabilities and uphold certain standards of behavior. And no one is going to take the head of HR seriously, knowing the behavior that she was involved in. So ultimately, it was probably the right call.
I've been reading this book. Thank you for arguing about rhetoric. And one of the pieces at the core of it is, sort of ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos being sort of, are you credible? What's your character? Mm-hmm. And it is interesting that we do care about whether someone's credible. Mm-hmm. And one of the best ways to be credible, to go back to our earlier part of our conversation, is to be disinterested, right? It's like the luxury beliefs crowd in some ways hijacks this, because they say, I am not only a good person because I want all these programs that allegedly will help the poor, but I'm well off. So I'm totally disinterested. That makes me more credible in my my moral righteousness for holding this belief, because if hey, my marginal tax rates might go up. I'm being sacrificial. Do you think that plays a role, that this sort of like faux disinterest?
Yeah, I mean, it probably does. This feeling of, oh, you're impartial, you're objective, you're not so caught up in the right and wrong, more dispassionate analysis. I mean, that may have something to do with it, but that's not how most people are. Most people, they expect their spouse to be faithful. Betrayal is, that's a universal experience. It's something that no one wants in their own life. There's both sort of anecdote and personal experience, as well as a large body of research on this topic of, the betrayed romantic partner in a relationship does go through severe heartache and emotional stress and all kinds of pain. And, people hope that that won't happen in their own lives. And the way that we uphold norms is to shame and stigmatize that behavior, and to say that's not okay, and to publicly agree that, it was just weirdly, like, it was, I feel bad for their families and their spouses and everything. But in terms of, what, it was kind of a white pill, as the kids say, like, wow, we actually still agree that, being in a relationship, cheating on your spouse, that's still wrong. Because you could imagine a reality where that would have been somehow politicized, and that one side, the right probably would have said, oh, like, that's wrong. And the left saying, well, who are we to judge? And, we're all about polyamory and casual open relationships and so on. But no, we still uphold that as a value. So that was actually surprisingly nice to see.
If you like this clip, we've got so much more where that came from. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss our new videos as they come out each week.